So first of all, thank you for inviting me here. I'm only a few hours here and it already feels like family. So thanks for this experience. Today I'll share my experiences. And we're going back to 15th of September 2008. The Lehman Brothers went broke, the biggest failure economically, financially, in bankruptcy that we knew till today. And of course, journalists flocked from everywhere, and one of them catched me for an interview. And they asked me, well, doctor, what do you think about that? I said, well, it's time to learn from the best company in the world. So they asked me, what is the best company in the world? I told them, whatever you believe the best company in the world is, look at nature. Nature exists for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, for many people millions, but we don't have really clear evidence of how many millions. We know that they produce great things and they have the best governing elements around them. No politicians, no bankers, no hospitals, no accountancies, no money, and they thrive year after year with staggering results. So if we find a company like that, we should at least study how they function and compare them to our own man-made economy. So we take a bill of 100 euros. We go to the bank with that, and we tell them in 12 months, I'll be back, like the Terminator. What do I get? And according to the planning that you'll have, it will be between 2, 3, 4 euros, 7, 8, 9 euros, but not really much more than that. Now, let's see what happened if you would invest this money in the stock market. And look what happens with the Dow Jones, 200 times in 100 years. Okay? 100 years, we made 200 times our money. You would say not bad. What made the best stock in this period? About 100 times in 15 years. That was a staggering result already. This is our man-made economy. We go to upcoming economies like the Indian economy, and we go to the Sensex. What did it do in 60 times in 30 years? Which is not bad at all. But it goes with a lot of stress, a lot of hassle. Nobody is feeling very good. They're taking cocaines. They're going to nice ladies to relax. But it still doesn't help them. It's a job that you cannot sustain for a long period of time. Now let's see what the economy does of nature. We take a chicken. We couple it with a rooster. We do nothing. We wait a year. What do we get? Well, if you don't tend to them at all, you will get times 100. If you're really a professional farmer, you will get times 400. But essentially, you will have times 250 on average, while still having normal organic chickens. Let's see what a grain of wheat is doing. You plant it. A half year later, you get about 50 times your input, and about a year later, you get 2,500 times your input. Can you imagine that? You bring a bill of 100 euros to the bank, and you come back at the end of the year, you get 2,500 times that bill. Incredible. Well, nature does it easily. And let's see what it means if you go and invest in that. Well, 25,000% annually for the chicken, which means if you take a euro, 1 euro, you will get about, look, okay, a trillion, okay? 1 euro in 5 years. You do that with a grain of wheat. Now, I would like to know if somebody can even express this type of figure. We don't know anymore how to call it. That's how it's beyond our conception of the economy. And when you think that it goes along with a lot of stress and hassle, and that we need to take cocaine and drugs, etc., and alcohol just to relax a little bit, nothing at all. We see this wheat field and we can meditate on it. That's how boring it is. And Lao Tzu, about 2,500 years ago, said already, nature doesn't hurry, yet everything is accomplished. What a wisdom. Now you might think they produce a lot, but the quality is crap. So let's examine the quality. If we see what bone does in compressive strength, bone is 4 times stronger than steel for the same weight. Imagine. So, great quality. What about hardness? Great compression, but the hardness. We know the diamond, but limpet teeth are even harder than diamond. Of course, we don't wear them on our jewelry, but nature has great hardness, the best ever. Now, what about tensile strength? The spider silk is tougher than Kevlar. You can make a vest out of it and it will hold back the bullet. So we see that nature not only produces tremendous quantities we can only dream of, but the quality is even exceptional. Now let's see how this is durable in time. Well, both are the same age, 20 years old. Okay? The sofa, you only sit on it in the weekends from time to time, and if you have children, you hardly sit on it, okay? But the other one, you sit on it every day, okay? And it looks perfect at the age of 20. Nobody will doubt it looks perfect. Even looks perfect at the age of 60 sometimes. So, what is the secret there? The second one is connected to life. And when it's connected to life, it maintains itself. And you see, once you take away the apple from the tree, it starts to deteriorate. And we'll understand very quickly why. So what is the secret of nature? How does nature have this exceptional return on investment with this superb quality of product, and it maintains itself during a lifetime? Well, the secret is that homeostasis means that we keep everything around our standard factory values, okay? And we do that through biofeedback. I'll give you a little bit of explanation. Most congresses I don't have so much time to talk, but this time I will. So, you see we are in a beautiful resort. Okay. Now, imagine this is nature. We have sensors everywhere. If a little bit of paint is scratched, it sends a signal to a central organ, and the central organ comes back and repairs it with identical material and color to keep everything according to factory settings. A little scratch on the floor sends a signal, and the signal comes back and it's repaired. Okay? This is a biofeedback loop. A chair gets spoiled, immediately repaired. Not enough coffee in the coffee machine, immediately back. These are biofeedback loops. If we would do that in our own economy, we would have exactly the same longevity and quality as nature. And we keep everything in a homeostasis according to factory settings. Now, what is the essence, the basic element of our human body? It's the cell. So the cell is visited by the blood circulation, because if it's not visited by the blood circulation, we die. We call it an infarct. Okay, no blood, no life. So it brings oxygen, it brings information, and it brings food to the cell. And it goes back with carbon dioxide, with feedback of the information and the waste product. Now, how many times does it do that? If you follow your pulse, you will see it's about 50, 60, 70, 80 times a minute. Let's say, for the sense of simplicity, that it is 60 times, which means every second, your house is visited, you get everything you need, they clean up the shit, they go away with everything, and they leave you everything perfectly arranged and in an original state. Does this happen in our house? It doesn't. We have a cleaning lady maybe once a week, maybe once a month, we don't know, maybe twice a week, but definitely not every second. Okay? So if you maintain the elements the way the body does, you will get tremendous results. Because don't forget, this information and the feedback means if something changed, if you get new information and you give feedback, you will improve your product in the next cycle, which is a second later. So if you keep improving your corporate every second, and you improve it slightly and slowly over time, you will get the best company in the world. So, we keep in touch with the central command, which is basically the brain, the heart, and the intestines. And they repair everything constantly, okay? So the body is built as separate units, but very, very much connected. And this is extremely important to understand because it will determine the way we create a corporate structure. So you see, if you look at the body, it's compartmentalized in elements. And around these elements, we have the fascia, which connects everything. So we have these organs. Within the organs, we have compartments. Within the cell, we have compartments. Everything is compartmentalized. So we are trying to build big structures without compartments. We need small compartments, but very well connected. So, and the connection, we have a lot of connections in our body, but we've got two major networks of connection. We got the nervous system, which goes to an organ and a cell and gives them a command that is only meant for that organ. For instance, it's warm, we start to sweat, only the sweat glands. Our blood sugar goes lower, we are hungry, only the stomach. And then we have a second network, which is the blood flow, which goes all over the body. It's like a memo that you send to the whole factory, the whole corporate structure, one memo to everybody, from the janitor to the CEO, okay? While the nervous system is specifically directed towards marketing or sales or production or even one unit within the production. And they go in a double direction, back and forth, which means that the one who is giving the order is not the one who is receiving the feedback. And that is very important. Why? A lot of corporate structures are built in that way. Your boss gives you the order, I mean your direct boss in your department. And if things go wrong, you cannot go back to that same boss and tell him it's wrong. It will never go higher up to the CEO. So you need a different circuit. And this is one of the major failures in corporate life. We need a circuit that goes and a circuit that comes back, which are totally different, so they can really communicate independently. And we need it to be locally, and we need it to be centrally. Now, second thing that is very important is this global pathway, this message and the feedback, they are hardly altered during their trajectory. So it's not that we try to tell something to our manager and the manager goes up and up and up, and by the time it reaches the CEO, it has been completely transvestized, this message. No, it stays the original message, okay? Not changing the message during the trajectory, because the trajectory is very fast and very accurate. We need to implement that also in our corporate lives, okay? So these direct pathways and the general pathways are the essence of the connection of our body. Now there is another connection that is very important. That is what we call our brain coherent. That means that only the things that resonate with the heart and with the brain at the same time, at the same frequency, will yield something decent in our body. And there are a lot of discussions in corporate life, what to do with male and females in the corporate life. Do we need more input of ladies in the decision making or not? And the tendency till now is to create companies that are male dominated because of the efficiency. But if you look at the body and how it functions, a body is female dominated because there is more connection from the heart to the brain, 10 times more than from the brain to the heart. Which means things work like in life. You fall in love with, let's keep it an apartment for the moment, not to make it too romantic. Okay? So you fall in love with an apartment. You say, oh, majestic, fantastic. This is the place I want to live. This is the house. This is the major decision. This drives everything. And then you go to an architect. You go to an engineer. You go to a contractor. You go to the notary. You go to the bank. All elements that pertain to the brain. And you go to find out if they agree with your decision practically. And it is possible that the brain will tell you, you don't have enough money to buy that. Forget about it. Or it's not even registered to build on it. Forget about it. So this collaboration between heart and brain is essential to function. So you need really to build a company that takes care of the emotion and of the thinking. Now, if we go from the brain that says, okay, let's go ahead, we see that the brain goes through the blood and the nerves and gives the information through the organs, the cells, and the brain back. And this is the biofeedback loop, okay? Which is essential for us to function. And this biofeedback loop runs around constantly, where the brain should be the CEO to take the decision. But as we know, the brain doesn't take the decisions as a CEO. There's no CEO in the world that says, it is like that because I say so. No. He has a board, and then the departments, and then the employees, and all this turns in a circle. And at the end, when things function well, and there is a connection between what the cells say and what the CEO perceives, we don't know anymore who is the boss. And this should be like that in functional democracy. Because these elements, these laws of nature, they have also their repercussions in the political world, in governmental world. Who takes the decisions? Can we have a government that is totally out of tune with the population? I don't think so. To a certain extent, maybe, but then it breaks down. Can we have a population that drives everything through emotions without the government bringing it a little bit in position? We might have more wars than we think. So that's not a good idea either. So both play a role and talk to each other, and at the end, we get back to this guy a few thousand years ago who said, when the best leader's work is done, the people say we did it ourselves. I find it brilliantly said. If you understand it's 2,500 years before Jesus Christ, I mean, this is amazing. And this is how the world should function in the corporate world, in the political world, and that's exactly how it functions in a well-structured, healthy human body. So, we are connected. No man is an island. We know that. We have a social role. As an individual, but as a corporate, we have a social role, and we are connected. Now, we are connected to each other. That's the first thing. We need to create, when we create something, even if it's our own human body, if it's our couple or a family, we are connected to the community around us. And which means also that the corporate world should be connected to local clients, what we call fair trade. Local clients who benefit the economy, and the money circulates in the same community. And there are about, I believe, 100 areas where they have their own currency, if not more, where the money circulates within and doesn't go outside, okay? Because money has been established because we don't have trust. We don't have trust in our neighbors with who we deal. We don't have trust in our own future, what will happen with it. So we need to keep this mistrust as confined as possible. Now, the family is, in fact, the core element of our human life. It extends to a broader family. That's how we're meant to live. And we're meant to live in a tribal situation. And a tribal situation is where we still know each other. I would say that's the definition. I know that social media say above 150 people, you don't know each other anymore. I believe it's more. It extends to 300 people a minimum, and about 3,000 a maximum, or 4,000, 5,000, depends how far you meet each other, etc. But we are tribal. If we want to live in trust and in connection, we at least must know the people who make up our tribe. And once we extend that tribe to millions of people in a big city, it's over. We get a lot of problems. Now, not only are we connected to each other, we're also connected to the universe. There is a universal plan. There is what we call a zeitgeist. I don't know if you're familiar with that name. There is like the tendency of the moment, okay? So there are things that were not conceivable like 100 years ago or 50 years ago or in other cultures. There is like a tendency of the moment. And if we do things within the spirit of the time, they become successful because they are connected with the universe. So we have core values, we have a personal DNA, we have a universal DNA, and we have in our corporate life a mission statement. So we know what we are doing. And there is also a corporate DNA. And a lot of companies fail because they don't adhere to the corporate DNA. And that's why they get disintegrated. Now we're going to see two examples here. People who did it well and people who didn't do it well in the corporate life, and see what happened with them over time. Walmart. Sam Walton, in the 50s, takes a loan of $25,000 from his father-in-law, and he builds a small store outside of the town, in the villages, because in the center of the cities, there was Kmart, and Kmart was giving discounts, and only the people in the cities had discounts, so he opened a discount store outside in the villages. It was a catastrophe. His first opening was a disaster. And what happened is, Sam Walton was somebody who learned from everything. He learned from everybody, and he corrected it immediately. He had this feedback loop in his mind constantly busy. And so he went to see what the error was, corrected it, and made it better next time. He wasn't extremely bright in a certain sense. He was just somebody who was willing to learn and to correct each time, which means that whatever venture that you will start in the future, don't be afraid to start with a failure. The biggest company in the world started with a failure, but they learned from it, and they corrected it. And with the corrections, everything started to become better. But it also means, as doctors, when you are terminally ill, you're going to die in a week, but you all of a sudden, you reverse your thinking, and you enter in a feedback loop, and you start correcting slowly all your organisms and all your mechanisms, because the body can read the DNA. We don't know what's going around in our body, but our body can read our DNA. And they have all the workers to fix it. And they have the building blocks to fix it. And you start eating healthy and breathing healthy, you can reverse virtually every disease, even at the terminal stage. You can turn a company around, even at the terminal stage, as long as it's connected with the zeitgeist, with the values of that time, okay? So that's what it learns us all. So he started discount stores in rural areas, okay? And why? What was the spirit? The spirit is to give more buying power to the people. You had wages, you earned like $500, all of a sudden with these discount stores, you had like a buying power of $700 or $800. And this was his motivation. So he was connected to the people. He gave back to the people. You see? And if you look at his quotes, and he says, the boss is a servant, exactly what we saw. Who is finally the one who's doing the work? The cell or the brain? And when the work is well done, you don't understand who is the servant and who is the boss. It all melts down to the same person. Okay? Your employee is a teacher. You can learn from him because you learn what's happening on the field. And he used to drive with truckers in incognito to hear from them where the problems were and correct them the next day. He used to go overnight to night shops in another city to see what people buy at what price, what was for them okay, and come back with this information. It's a guy who valued enormously the biofeedback loop, okay? And then he was really connected with the time and connected with the spirit of the people, and he said, the company is not the boss, the customer. The customer is the boss. So no man is an island. We are connected, and you need to be connected with your customer. And the customer is connected again with other people. And that's how the world goes. So Walton's value was what? Add value. Take risks, have faith, and trust. Money is a distrust, is like a manifest of distrust. You have to go back to the trust. Focus on being the best, not the largest, and we'll talk about it in a few minutes. It's extremely important to understand that. Create a group of people that believe in what you believe, so get this DNA on one line with everybody. Very important. Create associations, profit sharing. He's the first one who gave profit sharing to his people. But this DNA thing is very important. Earning money in a company is not a DNA. Is not a DNA. To make more profit next year is not a DNA of a company. A DNA of a company is what Walton said. I want people to have more buying power. I want to do this for the people. That's a DNA. But making more profit is a result, nothing else. Okay? So, everybody is equal. And keep promises. Now, we know all the definition of branding. Branding is what people talk behind your back when you leave the room. Right? That's what they say. What is your company? What is your branding? What do you do? Leave the room and leave a microphone in the room. What they talk behind your back, that's the perception they have of you. How many promises have you delivered and how many of them have you kept? Keep your promises, it enhances your brand. Okay, he became the richest man in America by following just a few rules of the rules of biology. And it's still till now the world's largest company by revenue, and it's still till now the richest man. If you take all the Waltons combined who inherited, you take all their fortunes together, they're still richer than Bezos, Elon Musk, and all these kind of people. Okay, so imagine what impact it had by just adapting a few of these laws of nature over 100 years nearly. What went wrong with these guys? The biggest bankruptcy that humans have ever known. Well, I don't know if you know something about finance, but I assume you do. It started with Bush, W. Bush. And he says, poverty doesn't exist. Nah, no money to buy a house? No, this doesn't exist. You go Americans and you buy whatever you want and the banks will loan you money. Okay? Good. So it was a scheme to take the money away from the people and to get them poorer, but never way. Go and get a loan. So you get a loan, 9% interest on a house, you can never repay it, but they take this loan and they sell it as a bond. You know what a bond is? It's like you get money on your bond. It's like you buy the loan from the bank and you get like a percentage. But it's in fact the percentage that the guy who had to repay the house is paying. The bank tells you, Mr. Joe, you want to buy a house, $1 million? Very well, we'll give you the money, 9% a month. Okay, a year, 9% a year. So you pay them 9% for as long as you can, and all of a sudden they have like a loan for 9% of the money. That's what the bank earns. So on paper, it's like a good investment. If Joe can pay till the end of his life, it's a great investment. So they take this investment with 9% return on investment, and they sell it to somebody else, okay, as an investment. But not at 9%, because the bank has to earn a little bit. They sell it to you at 7%. And you say, wow, 7%, that's great. Okay, I'll buy one. Okay, I'll put here $1 million and I'll get 7% of my money, based on the fact that the bank guarantees it. But the bank didn't guarantee that. It was still Joe that guaranteed that. And that was the problem. And they got a AAA rating based on the rating of the bank, not on the rating of Joe, because his rating is triple Z, okay? Not AAA. And that's how individual investors that weren't connected with what the bank thinks, the loop was broken, invested in a loan for 7% based on the fact that the bank guarantees that, but the bank doesn't guarantee that, and that Joe will repay 9% during the year, so every month. When Joe stopped paying, it all crumbled. And then they went with their loan, 7%, and they said, what, I don't get 7% on my money anymore? He said, no, and even your money doesn't exist anymore, because Joe stopped paying. But they said, you guaranteed? No, we didn't guarantee. We just got a AAA rating on the bond. This is totally against the biofeedback loop, but exactly the opposite. And they became the biggest bankruptcy in history. You see, so following the laws of nature is extremely important to get a corporate healthy. So what is the biology of wealth dealing with? With essential questions in our life. What is the DNA of your organization? If you don't know what the DNA of your organization is, stop working for a month and think about it. What is leadership? What is the CEO? Is he really the boss? Do we have to add the heart at the top of the management level? Because this is a big failure sometimes. We disconnect from reality if we don't do that. Are complaints dealt with personally or statistically? Very important. The body deals with it statistically. He has 40 trillion cells. They all send the biofeedback to the brain. The brain analyzes it in a split second and gives a right decision to each of these cells. That is faster than AI. Okay? So, our open office is a good idea. We already sense that we need to work in separate units, so open offices are not really a good idea. Is bigger really better? No, because we live in tribes and not in big cities, okay? So, how to toggle between local and global? Very important. You want to be global, but you want to be local. Maybe you should open small independent units instead of one global company who is regulated out of one big city, London or whatever it is, okay? Why are cycles so important? We have to deal also with the moments where we have to replenish ourselves. That means a company doesn't have to grow constantly. Nature doesn't grow constantly. A part of the growth is in the earth in the winter. We need to have that winter built in our economy, where we build foundations for the next summer. So not cry when the leaves fall down. It's not a catastrophe, okay? How to create a healthy corporate culture. How does the body incorporate a new piece in his corporate culture? On what criteria do we hire staff members? Very important. Not on their skills. Not on their skills, because the body doesn't accept you if you come from a very healthy individual. You can't get a graft from a guy who was 20 years old, who just died in a crash, or you can get a graft from a guy who is 80. Just look at the DNA. Which DNA is closer to you? All the rest you will reject, okay? So look at somebody who has your own corporate culture. what is team building, and how useful it is, and how health affects productivity. All these are very important questions that can build or break a company, okay? So adapt continuously, create these channels of the biofeedback, a general one and a local one, okay? That's important. Get the brain-heart coherence. Now what happens when we put a graft in? This is an example that I use for corporate life, how to hire people. When you put a graft, first thing that happens is, it's like hiring somebody. Everybody looks at productivity. Will he be able to do the things directly? Body doesn't look like that. It doesn't need the function of the organ immediately. First he thinks, is this DNA compatible? Will the body not reject it? So, when I had my clinic, first thing we did, a new one came, he ate together with all of us in the kitchen at noon. And we were 45 people in the clinic. So everybody had his opinion. And I interviewed the people after that, my own staff, to ask, how did he blend in? After 1 day, 2 days, 3 days of work, how did he or she blend in? If they said, yeah, we can see ourselves working with this person, then deal done. It's the first part of a graft. Secondly is the blood flow. We need the blood flow in an organ. You've been accepted by your DNA, now the blood flow needs to accept this piece of meat. So how does he blend in and work together with the people? Go back and forth. And only then the body looks at the function. Does he really have the function of a normal skin? The function comes at last. And that is very important to understand. How do we connect? How do we connect with the universe? Very important. How do we live with the zeitgeist? We will see that a lot of things that happened simultaneously. Okay? Simultaneously in 1910, 1915, all the trusts were pulled down. So Rockefeller has to split his oil factory, oil companies, for Standard Oil to 40 different companies. But at the same time, Henry Ford got the permission to build a car because the trust, the corporations of the automobile manufacturers were not allowed anymore. So then you see it's a pivoting moment in the economy, 1910, 1915. And you will see these pivoting moments in the world. And if you are, we are now in a pivoting moment in the world. Economies will be different after this messy period that will take place till 1930, till 2030. After this messy period, new companies will emerge. We have to understand this zeitgeist and go along with it, okay? Now, how to value all these things, understand the soul, understand the strength that we have, the core values, and how they're all connected with each other, okay? Now, we see the cell with the person, with the people, with the universe, they should be like one. Now, when we grow, everybody wants to grow, to be international, to be this, to be that. Let's study how nature grows, okay? Nature doesn't produce a strawberry that is one strawberry, 7 kilos. No, 7 kilos of strawberries are 7 kilos is a lot of small strawberries. It's not one big strawberry. If we build big companies, don't build one big building with a big company. No. Human body doesn't understand that. Make small departments and let them communicate one with another. Okay? Now, you see that everything is compartmentalized in the human cell. Work like that. Build companies that are compartmentalized and united by the same connections. By the way, the big corporations, they work like that on their level. On their level, they work like that. They work like the human body. That's why they are successful. Each company, each big company is like hundreds of small companies, and they connect with each other, and they know each other, and they talk to each other, and they drink champagne from the same bottle. You see, and this is how the human body works, and they understood that already. Big offices? No, not productive. Human body doesn't work like that. Small offices, you need a kind of privacy. Your cubicle should be completely closed if you want to be productive. What is communication and team building? Well, when we do team building, we take the whole team and we let them play around in, I don't know, paintball game or whatever it is, that's not team building. You take a department and you let them visit all the other departments and understand where they stand in all these things, okay? If you have a production unit, you go to the production unit, you tell them, look, once you made your product, it's packed. Once it's packed, it's shipped. And it's shipped because somebody sells it. This is the sales department. The sales department can sell because we have a marketing department that spread the message, okay? And this is what our customers are telling about the product, and then they understand why they produce. Then you take the sales department and you bring them to the production unit. And they will tell you things. They can tell you, look, the way they produce it, we have a hard time to sell, okay? Just change that. And then you take everything to the accountant. And the accountant will say, you know what, the way you're selling it, maybe you should think about a leasing, okay? And that's how you do that. These departments have to visit each other and understand why they exist and how important they are for each other. This is a team building concept. That's how the body works, okay? Feedback and complaints, okay? Individual complaints, they undermine the morale of employees, okay? And puts people under pressure. We shouldn't do that. We should bring all the complaints together and treat them statistically, okay? That's important. Look at the statistical concept of all these complaints. Then, money is the blood of the biology. It circulates everywhere. It goes where organs start to grow. And it's important also that you allocate the money in the right place. So, the mind at rest, I think we'll talk about it in other moments, because we develop technology to relax the mind, different technologies. One is a cabin based on specific water on the third eye, and the second one is electromodulation on the third eye. What we think about coaching, burnout, and well-being, because we've been treating all these kind of things, okay, a health check is important. Some people really suffer from diseases, real diseases. They have high blood pressure, high blood sugar, etc. Food therapy, when you go downstairs and you eat in the restaurant of the factory, you should eat the things that fit your body. Wearables to monitor the stress and to see, because then you can put it in a chart and you can see, okay, this guy, Joe, he's stressing already at 11:30, and after the meals he's relaxed. Maybe we should put him in another department. These two people, when they meet each other at work, they stress both, okay? Maybe we should separate them. Things like that you can get out of these wearables. Some people will not function anymore after 3 o'clock. Some people will not function before 11 o'clock, and these wearables can help. We designed the importance of cycles in our life. We know that for ourselves we have cycles, morning, afternoon, and night, where we do different things. Nature has cycles, winter, summer, etc. We have also cycles in our corporate life. This is a book I wrote a while ago, and it goes about Ayurveda for the Western world. If you want the book, I can send it to you by PDF. It's free of charge, okay? So you let me know to which email. Well, Secret to Life is, in fact, a set of rules. And if you follow those rules, we will not only benefit physically, but we'll also benefit mentally. And our corporate life, if it follows these set of rules, it will be a healthy company. And a healthy company can go from here till infinity. So the biology of wealth applies not only on nature, on the human body, but also on sociology, on spirituality, on politics, and on the corporate life. So what am I doing when people ask me, Ilan, how can you define yourself in a few short words? Is helping organizations to rebuild strategies, thus improving growth, clarity, and stability. And by implementing timeless biological rules of wealth and sustainability into our organizations. And it's extremely important to do that to thrive. So this is why a doctor is talking about economy, because essentially it's exactly the same. Thank you.